Hello, this is Richard Kahn. In this video, I am going to show you how I replaced the poly plastic thermostat and coolant crossover that exist in the motor with the ones you see on the right. That's the thermostat and coolant crossover. The next video, at the end of this video, I'll show you how I did the oil cooler, which is the item on the left. So the items on the right are the thermostat on the left, the coolant crossover on the right above. Here's how they look when they're together. Hermiz is a 2018 Promaster Clas B RV Heimer camper that my wife and I enjoy traveling in. So what I'm going to show you first before I show you the actual install is where I ended up. Well, this is Richard Kahn. Hello. And it's nighttime and I'm just finishing up. I started yesterday afternoon. I'm working on Hermiz. You can see Hermiz over here. So I'm making some videos of what I'm doing. I don't recommend anybody do it, but I'm going to make some videos. So that's where the motor mount went. The engine is supported. I've changed and put the metal crossover. The other one was leaking. So I did have a little bit of a leak. I did smell a little bit of coolant. I could not identify where it was. It was not in the reservoir. It was there. I have it on the videos and I'll show you. I put a nice new metal thermostat. No plastic over there. Everything's properly torqued down. So the first thing I do is put Hermiz up on the ramps. I believe those are the 12,000 pound Rhino ramps, I don't remember, and block the rear wheel so it doesn't roll back. So if you have an E-guard like Hermiz does, and we need to steady the engine or support the engine, this is the oil pan here. So I cut a little piece of 1x4. I'm going to put it up like that onto the engine oil pan. Then I cut a little piece of this wood that I have here that's going to put it here like this. And then I'm going to put a floor jack on there and just support it. Raise it up maybe a couple of millimeters is all and hold on to it. Okay, so here is what's happening. The parts are in here. And what I'm going to do is, first I've just supported the engine, which I showed you. Now I'm going to remove this. You see this is that, remove this piece over here so that I can get to, I'll remove maybe this so I can get to the motor mount. So what we have to do is, while the engine's supported, we have to take the motor mount off so we can get to the crossover pipe. So that's the job. Remove the air box to get more access to the engine compartment. So once you let the screws off, they don't come out, they just stay in there. You can see them that they're there. You just pull this out. And there you see that you have your 10 millimeters to take this off. So you have 1, 2, 3, and I think there's a fourth in the back over there, but we'll have to see. So I'm going to take that off. I use a little air tool to take this off, but I want to show you with this extended how I use this magnet. See this magnet here? Got it from a little shop on the Grandfather Mountain. It's a magnet, and so if I'm working with something like this and I put it back here, the magnet just rolls on the extension and creates magnetism so that the head of that bolt doesn't fall down. But just in case, I put a little glove to block the hole. There's the drain that goes to the outside. That's the drain hole. So that's how I do that with all bolts that may drop off. Okay, so I took those 3 bolts out in there. And then I wanted to show you that using the 10 with this bendable wrench, you take that out, but you want to take this little Phillips head out. You need this type of screwdriver, the one that twists here. And then there's another one right up there, and you can get them by hand. That will raise this up a little bit, just the side, you see, just the side, like this, so that you can get this bolt out of here. This bolt moves this out of the way because there is a bolt, I don't know if you can see it, I'll show it to you in the next, that's way back there, right behind that tube, and that will be the one that finally takes this one out, and so you can remove the air. So the final bolt is the one that I told you is back there. Now you can hardly see it, but the extension is on that. It's actually a nut, and it's way up there, and it's behind that little wire that's over there. So when you have it in there, just remember I use the magnet because you don't want to drop that little nut. With the magnet, you see the magnet is right here on this extension. You see how that nut that came out there stays in there? It's in there. It's slightly magnetized, and that's the way you have to do it when you have those nuts and bolts that could fall down and create a problem if they get lost. That's the trick to that baby. And this thing just rolls around on it. Now I believe I should be able to just pull this baby out just like that. Now there's, whoops, there you go, I dropped that. That was the thing that holds, that's okay, I have to take this off, I'll be able to get it. I didn't know that it came off. So there's a hose, a drain hose right here. Let's see if I can see it in my finger. That's attached to it. And then there's another drain hose, a big one, that's attached, that goes down to the bottom. So I'll take those off. In reality, when you pull this out, it's not even attached, it's just sitting in there, this little drain hose. So let me just get this here. I'm using this here. This just pulls right out. Let me see here. I should take that out first, but there it is. So that pulls right out. And it's that nut that's the hard one to get, this one that is up here in the upper corner. But now that you know how to do that, I'll just reserve that to the side. And then now there's a lot more room. And this is that hose that is the drain hose for there. So now I'm going to take, I keep a cover on the motor that is zip tied here, so it keeps the water running off and down and away. And then I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to take this off, which, because I'm going to do, after the job of doing the thermostat and the crossover, I'm going to change the oil filter, oil cooler, also for metal, get rid of the polyplastic. So this is that plastic that I use. I've posted on it, and I actually extended it probably about 4 or 5 inches and put that one on. But this engine, we got it with 3,500 miles. Now it has 35,000 miles. And it is dry as a bone, pristine and beautiful in there. All that water that comes down from here that we can't solve gets directed out to there. So when you look here, you don't see any rust or corrosion. So I highly suggest everybody does that. So I'm going to remove this. There you can see the mount that we're going to get to, and go on with this job. So there's a little sensor back here in the back. You see that? So you take that little pick and you slide it in that little hole. Then you press towards what is here is my right, and just lift up. That's the way that thing works. You have to take that sensor out. We also have to take this out. So far, these are the tools that I'm using. I use one of these, like a container that would hold utensils normally. And that's the tools that I'm using. And I use these little snack bags. So right now that I'm completed with removing the air filter housing there, whatever, airflow, I'm going to put all these little screws into one little bag, and then I'm going to put them right there. So I know that it was part of that job. And that way, when I get more nuts and screws and bolts and whatever, I don't mix them up. So I had a little lunch, and now it rained, believe it or not. See that? It had a good drizzle, passing drizzle. That's Florida. So now I'm going to remove this bolt. These look like 8s or 10s. This one, this is off. And then I'm going to pull this out. That's going to give access down here to that mount. Yeah, I may try and take it out as one piece. Make sure you have one of these magnetic tools for when you drop stuff that's metal anywhere. You can just take it out and get it. So I noticed that I dropped the, see it over there? The little extension right there. Let me see if I can see it. So with this thing, it's real easy. Just stick it in like that. See? And there it is. So you need that tool. That's a good tool for your toolbox. So I just lifted it up here, pulled it off over there. There's this little thing over here, manipulated that around, and now just take this whole thing out and set it to the side. The two mounts that have to be removed. I have to inspect that mount. I think it's fine. This is an air cleaner, so it can really stay open. However, I'm going to put a plastic bag over it. That's what I like to do. And then I'll move forward on that. So I believe this is an E18. I put some penetrating oil on it. Yes, it is. It's an E18. So those three are E18s. I'm not sure what the bolt size is on the mount. That's the mount. That's the mounting bracket. That's the mounting bracket. That's the mount, or one or the other. So the size of the bolts down here are 18, and I'm using 1/2 inch with this ratchet. And if I need a little extra leverage, because they're on very tight, when I put them back, I'm going to put red Loctite, or at least blue. But here I can put a pipe. So I have these extensions, and I can put a pipe to get the leverage that I need. Otherwise, they're on very tight. I don't know what the torque is. It's just real tight, getting them off. Okay, so let's just go over this thing here. These are on very, very tight, very tight. And so you need a pipe to get this thing, or you need the long torque wrench that you use for putting the lugs on the wheels. Or you need one of these. And then a step down from 3/8 to a half, or step up to get that out. And so they're ready to come off, and that's how that's done. So you can see that those mounting threads, they've got sealant on them, and I have that sealant to put them back on. So I guess it's not using the red, it's using the sealant. So I have the sealant, I'll buff that off and clean that up. So in order to raise the upper mount, so you have an upper mount and then you have a mid mount, or I guess a lower mount. Now that that bracket is off, by removing these three E18s, this whole thing should lift up, and then I'll be able to take the other one off and get access to the thermostat and the crossover. So now with the bolts come out, by the way, the bolts, they're equal, they're all the same length, so it's not necessary to note which is longer and which is shorter. And this thing should just pop right off. Just like that. That is the upper mount. So the upper mount, that comes off. We set it aside. And then now, you can see in here that this plate comes off here. So it's 1, 2, and then there's one, I believe that, yeah, there's one down here under my finger. This comes off, and then we'll be able to get to the thermostat and the crossover. So I'll take those off now. So now I'm going to take this unit off here. This unit's going to reveal the access to the crossover. This I believe is part of the crossover here. Well, whatever it is, we're going to see it. These are 16s. I believe they're 16s. Let me see. Is this a 16? Yep. Yeah, it fits perfectly. So there's 1, 2, and then there's one down here. I can feel it with my hand. They're probably going to back out very close to this wall. So I'll get them out as far as I can, and then see if we can back it out, then lift it up. Then this plate will come up and I'll have access to the crossover bolts. So for this unit here, you can have these 1, 2, 3 16s, and then you're going to have 1 13. And I'll show it to you when I pull it out. So this is loose. So I just want to let you know that you take that 13 out, and so that's about as far as it goes, and it's loose right there. There. Then these two 16s, they loose, but then just seat them up here, and so that you can now take the middle bottom 16 out. This way, you could try and take that one out first if you want, but this way, these things, they'll hold it steady while you take that 16 out. Let's see if I can get this wrench on there and just show you. Just like this. That's that lower 16. Once you have those two supported, that thing will come out. You cannot get an air tool or anything else in there. You have to use it something like this. Or, absent this, you have to use something like this. Okay? And then, this thing just comes right out. Now, I'm going to, you see this? This is what I was talking about. You cannot pull this bolt out. So you're going to have to remove it from the engine, like that, and then just raise it up. Let's see if I can do this on the fly. Let me do the one down here. That one's done. You could kind of like feel it. This one's close. Like that. Almost out. There, it's out. Holding it on. Try this one. Almost there. Now it's out. Pull it out just a little, and then just try and, oops, bring the whole unit up. Bring the whole unit up. Okay, bolts fell down. If the bolts fell down, no problem. They would be right at the bottom. And so now you could see that it was this bolt, this bolt, this bolt, 16s, and that's your 13. And that's your lower mount. Or I guess your mid mount. No, that's your lower mount. So now we can see the crossover right here, and we can see the thermostat housing right there. See it? Right there. That's the thermostat housing. That's the crossover. So next step will be taking those off. So on this lower mount, I went down and I got the bottom ones. They're fine because one's thinner, right? It's a 13, and this one's a 16. The thing is that this one's longer, so you have to. And it's funny because it's in closer, it's in lower, but you have to keep them where they are. So I'm going to just set them down just like this, right on the ground, right next to the upper. And so the bolts will just stay just like that. There's the upper, there's the lower. So I opened up the bleeder valve on the thermostat. And I opened up the top on the reservoir. You can see it's draining. I have one of these little Harbor Freight shop vacs. And I'm vacuuming out. Vacuuming out pretty well. And I'm just vacuuming it out, and I'll see. I have the little top to the thermostat bleeder. I'll put that back in. It may need to do it twice. I don't think it's going to have that much. And we'll see how that works. So that's how I'm draining it. Well, that's what it looks like. I had garbage and stuff from cleaning out before and stuff like that in there, so that's not what the coolant looks like. And you'd have to take the bag off on the shop vac when you do that. But there's just a very tiny little bit splatter of coolant. That's it from that whole job, because when I opened it originally, I was trying to take a video and I didn't put the vacuum there right away. So that's a 2 paper towel cleanup. All the rest is in here. So now I should be able to go ahead and remove that stuff without getting coolant all over. Okay, getting these clamps off of the coolant hose coming into the crossover and the thermostat, which is here. I took it off. You have to basically either buy a $20 tool or whatever, but you see how this works? It goes down in here. They squeeze it down in there so that it catches like that. So what you have to do is you have to put a tool like this underneath here and lift up on it so that it breaks because it's catching here. You see it's catching here, way back here. It's in there and it's catching there. So once you put a tool, or a heavier one if you have a bigger one, which I have, and you put it in there and you break it up, it pops open. It's only usable once. I'm going to put traditional stainless steel clamps on there. So this is the radiator thermostat housing clamp. This is a very weird clamp. It's the same thing like that, where the one I just talked about prior, but if you see this here, there's a little hole, and that hole, where is that hole? There. And that hole, they have a nipple on the thermostat hose that is crammed into that hole. So you think that clamp and that hose are one piece. Very difficult, very difficult. You see that? You could see I don't know if you could see the nipple on the top of the hose there. It's right there. The light's shining on it. But if you can, you can. If you can't, you can't. I can't get down to see it. But you see how that has a clamp indentation, and then there's that little nipple. So you think it's included in there. You have to pry it off. That's what it is. You have to pry it off of there. And then I'm going to put a traditional stainless clamp on there. Well, it's getting dark, so I'm going to cut out for today. That's why I say I needed some time, but that's the polyplastic, and that is the metal. Polyplastic, metal. Polyplastic, metal. Wow. That is a very important upgrade. Who makes thermostat housings out of plastic? Well, that's why they know that they collapse. They break. They start to leak at about 70,000 miles, or depending upon the heat. So that is a never break metal. And that's metal, and I'll take the other one off and then I'll show that to you. So have a nice evening, and I'll come back tomorrow. Okay, so I just want to show you a couple of things, because you might think, oh, well, the original thermostat is a better thermostat than the new thermostat. Well, thermostats are thermostats. This one says 95 degrees Celsius on the top, which I believe is the same as this one. This one doesn't have a marker on it. But when you depress this collar and twist the collar so that it comes out of this holder here, right? The collar fits like that. The small fits on top. The big fits on the bottom. But if you take a look at this, it's plastic. This is plastic. So I'm not putting plastic in a metal thermostat housing cover. So I'm just going to go with this is metal. You can see it's metal. I opened it up and I took it out to inspect it, and it looks fine. And it works great. So I'll be going with the replacement thermostat, all metal. Not putting another piece of plastic that can, polymer that can melt or crack or leak. I'm ready to resume the crossover and thermostat phase of this repair job upgrade. And I have a light now in here, and we have to take this whole thing out in order to get to this crossover. So the tube, the hoses, you have this hose, and then you have this hose. I'll back this hose off. As you know, there's no coolant in there, and we'll remove that and then get ready to torque it down. I just want to show you that this is a 1/4 inch torque set. So all bolts have to be, and screws have to be torqued down as you can. And so this is a 1/4 inch. You use it here. You set the inch pounds here to 0 on this line. Let's see if I can get a little closer. To 0 on this line. And then these little increments will add. So if you wanted to add, say you're going to go to say 40. I have it on 40 right now, but it's 40. I can't read it. It's 52. So it's 40 and then 12. So it's 52. And that's going to be my initial torquing before I bring it up to, I think it's 106 or whatever it is. That's how you work this. So you move this, you set it when it's at 0 in the line, and then you move the, I guess it's a micrometer or whatever this blue part is, up to add to the base numbers. That's how you use this thing. And I'm using the inch pounds. Remember, inch pounds are 1/12 of foot pounds. So if it says 1 foot pound, it's 12 inch pounds. If you're looking at something and it says to torque that down 10 foot pounds, that would be 120 inch pounds. You have to be careful not to use foot pounds when you're supposed to be using inch pounds, because you'll rip the top of the bolt off. Hello folks, so I thought maybe I should check in. Excuse the hairdo, been under that hat. So let me just show you something in here that when you're going to take out the bolts for the crossover, it's a good idea to put the crossover there, so you know where the bolts are going to be on this side of the thermostat. That way you can reach in and get them. And you also want to put the hose to the thermostat housing out of the way so that you can actually reach those bolts. The bolts that are on this side of the thermostat housing need to be removed with a ratchet wrench. And then the other ones, so I have a ratchet wrench here. And then the other ones, they could be removed with an air tool. So this is the first part of the project, which is do the thermostat housing and the crossover. And then the second part of the project is, once I put all that back together again, is going to be to do the oil cooler, which is this unit. And so all of this has to come off to get to that. Have a great day. I want to say this to you. I'm not sure that the length of the bolts are the same or the length of the bolts are different. So what I'm doing is, I've got the crossover here, and I just removed this one from the unit. Now you can see that it's plastic. Hard to believe, but true. This crossover right here, this is all plastic. So we're going to get rid of that. But what I wanted to say was, I'm going to put the bolt that I took out from there in the hole that I took it out from. And that way I will know which bolts go where, because they may be different sizes. You never know. To remove the 10 millimeters from the crossover, I'm going to use a 3/8 inch with a number 10 millimeter on my socket wrench. If I used the 1/4, then I would have to add a spacer in order to go from there, or to use this. It's too small. So that's the one that actually works. Long, 10 millimeter, 3/8 inch. I just want to show you that initially I only got a little bit of the coolant, but then I put this container under here that normally catches oil, and it has coolant that's come out that was lower than the bleed off on the thermostat. So you want to put that in over there. Then also anything that drops down, like a bolt or whatever, will go in there as well. I just took this bolt out of this hole right there, and you can see that it's a different size than this one. So this one's much longer, this one's shorter. So now I'll put that in there, and I'll know exactly the lengths of the bolts that go back into the crossover. Since you're going to be putting all these bolts in here, you don't want them to fall out. So I'm taking the box that this came in and putting them in here, because they're different lengths. And that way they won't fall out if it's loose. So it was a good idea to do this, because as you can see, these bolts, they're different lengths. So don't just start pulling the bolts out and putting them away. They're different lengths, and they have, some of them have these black things on them, whatever. And therefore, you need to do this and make sure that this unit is kept exactly like that. So I just want to show you something. All of the bolts are very clean, except the one that was right under the hose there, the hose clamp. Look at this. This bolt, there's a leak in that crossover, and that's what's causing that on that bolt. So there's a tiny little leak already started on that crossover, right under there. I'm going to buff this up with a wheel before I put it back. And so there you go. That thing was already leaking. Now to get it off, I'm just going to pry it gently. Okay, here's something interesting. Take a look at this. There is a bolt right under the crossover that is in the, I guess it could be the water pump. I'm not sure what this unit is right here, but it's the same size, and it came out, and I thought that it was the crossover bolt, but it's not. So I'm going to put it back in there, and I'm going to torque it down. So now we can see that the surface of the crossover is right there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little scouring pad, like the green one used in the kitchen sink, and I'm going to go along the top edge over there, and just to make sure everything is perfect. So the bolt that I'm talking about was this one here. So I don't know if it was this one. I think it was this one or this one. There's a bolt right under it that belongs to something else and looks like the same. So make sure that you're getting this one. So you can see that it did create some abrasion on there, and you can see that there is some stuff over there. So the thing to do is, when you're done with that, blow it all out. You don't want to get any little micro stuff in your coolant area. So I just want to say something here. When you blow this out, you should get some coolant coming out. Whatever it is, when you're blowing this off, you want to make sure to blow off everything underneath. You can see down there that that little catch-all, that green tub has got some coolant in it. So blow it all off. Hey, you see it comes out over there? So that what's happening is I'm blowing through the other side, and it's coming out through the engine. So I want to get that stuff off. Now, in order to do this crossover, the new crossover, which is metal, you see that there is a rubber gasket in here. I just want to show you a little something. You see this corrosion? I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can get a little more close. You see this? This is corrosion. This thing is already leaking. So the Hermiz has 35,000 miles. It's a 2017 motor, and it's a 2018 title, and you can see that that is a problem that would only get worse. It's already leaking all across here. It's leaking in here, and it's leaking in here. The rest of it looks pretty good, maybe, except for one thing. It's leaking here too. So you see there's a let me pull away from here. You see there's a rubber gasket, and so there's a rubber gasket, also a matching rubber gasket on the metal one. The key here is I'm going to have to take that gasket out, and then I'm going to use some super lube, which is on it, and slide it back in before putting it on. So what you want to do now is move this one to the side and put those bolts in here where they're going to go, so that you can turn this over without losing the position of each one of the bolts in their lengths. Let's take a closer look at this thing. There's the part number. Can you believe that they put a plastic crossover? And that's exactly what has happened here. It started to leak. So this is preventive maintenance. I hardly noticed any leak, but occasionally I would smell a little bit of a coolant, and it wasn't coming out of the reservoir. So this is where it was coming. Not enough to see. That's a potential problem. That problem's gone with a metal crossover. I am not sure what these little black pieces are that are coming out on some of the bolts. I don't know what they are. I'm going to have to check that out. They don't seem that they should be there. They may have come from the from this thing, from the inside here, something to do with these collars. but it does not appear that they should have one. In any event, that is the brand new gasket, and so I'm going to pull that gasket out. I'll show it to you. It's a vertical gasket. I'm going to lube it up with the super lube and put it back, and then it'll be ready to install. When you use this tool to pry it out a little bit, it's very gentle, and you definitely don't want to scratch it or break it, but you see it wants to come out just nice and easy. You just get a little piece of it and then grab a little piece of it. You do not want to damage that gasket. And that gasket, I don't know if you could see it, but it has little vertical nubs in it along the way. It's not smooth. So when you take this gasket out, it's going to lose its form. You're not going to know exactly where it's been, and it's been in here, and it came that way. So I have silver, gold, and black Sharpies. I'm going to take a gold Sharpie, and I'm going to mark it here and mark it here, and then I'm going to mark it, let's say, here, and mark it here, and then one more here, and mark it here, so that I know that I'm putting the gasket back in exactly the way it's been sitting after I lube it. So I'm going to pull it out. That will tell me also which is the top part, like this. I'm going to take my gloves off. I'm going to put some of this super lube on my fingers, and I'm just going to slide it all around, make it nice and lubricant. Then I'm going to put it back into this channel. Now that it's all lubed, I'm not going to use the gloves. I'm going to line it up and just gently press it into the channel. Make sure that when you put the gasket back in, that you start from the centers. Put the centers in first and then go around. If you start from the end, it's going to stretch. So you do it like that, put it all around. Now I'm going to take a little bit of the super lube, and I'm just going to put it in here just like that, around like that, before it goes to be installed. It's a beautiful install right now. So I have these stainless steel hose clamps, very nice heavy duty, 20-piece, large size, small size, worm gear, resealable storage pack. And so it's got all kinds of different sizes. This was the small one. This was the large one. So I'm just going to match them in here with a couple that are from there. And those are the ones that I'm going to use. Let me share a couple things with you that I've learned here cleaning the bolts. So the bolts are nice and clean. Whether the head is clean doesn't really matter that much, but the bolts are nice and clean. But I noticed a little bit of corrosion in all of them, even down here. You can see that the bolts have corrosion. I haven't cleaned this yet, and so does the hole. That is from leaking coolant. But then I noticed something that is also noteworthy, so that this thing definitely needed to be replaced, is that some of the short bolts have a washer. You see that? It's either a washer or it's actually a spacer. This bolt head is not the same as, for example, this bolt head, which does not have a washer. The washer is built into the bolt head. So these are very short. I'm not sure that they're spacers so that they seat inside the motor perfectly when it's tightened all down, but this just emphasizes the importance. Here's another one that has it. See that? This just emphasizes the importance of knowing exactly where these bolts go in the unit when you pull it out. Incredibly important. So if they were not seating all the way in when they machined it, then they would put a little spacer in here so that it did. So you want to be 100% positive that you have the new one exactly to the same bolt structure. So I started the new one with this bolt right there, right over there. And now I'm going to come back in and put this bolt in. And then I'm going to put one like here and here and set them in just so that it sets in correctly. Okay, so here's a hint. You see these bolts? What you need to do when you're going to put them back in, you do not want to be messing around there with your fingers in that area. It's a very unusual spot. So you want to set it at in the top of a socket like this. And then, and then pinch it, pinch it a little bit like this so you have it. And then stick it in here like this so that you have a good grip to get that bolt in. You don't want to drop that bolt. So the thermostat has that same type of O-ring or gasket, and so does the oil cooler. It's a vertical gasket with ribs. So you edge it out, then I'm going to put that gasket coating on, put it back in, and then torque it down. I think the torque on this one, I'll let you know, but I think it's 108 foot-pounds. So I put a little bit of the super lube right at the edge so it can slip into the hose. The hose goes down to here. This only fits in one way. This sits against the metal. And then the hose clamp, which I placed on there, you can, I think, see it. It's a new hose clamp, right there. And that'll come up and cinch up tight on there. I'll be using a 10 on that. So when you put your clamp on, I don't know if you can see it, there's where the prior clamp was, you want to put your clamp right on that spot. That is where the clamp is going to go, and tighten it down. I'm going to use the number 10, but you can also use a regular screwdriver. And so this clamp seats, I don't know if you could see it here, right up against this nub. Right up against that nub. And then the clamp goes right on that area. So the thermostat and crossover, all metal, that job's done. So now the job is to change this for the metal one. In order to do that, we have to take this apart. We have to take this, we have to move it over. And so the first thing we're gonna do is with this one, undo that bolt, see that bolt there? Raise it up, move it over. Then we're going to start taking some of these things apart. This thing's gonna come, this, that. The connection in there. There's a hinge in the back, 2 hinges in the front. Lift this up and get down to that. When you take this and set it to the side, you lift it up, twist it over and set it to the side. You want to check underneath here for any residue of coolant, like you saw in the coolant crossover, to see if there's any residue, because that's where the leak occurs. So the Hermiz has not had a leak, very, very, very slightly, and now we know that it was coming from that crossover. But that's how you set that aside, just like that. Now the next thing that we're going to do is start to take some things apart here, but they have videos online on how to do this job for installing a Dorman oil cooler. So I'm not going to be redundant. They have them online and they're very good. So you can consult the ones that are online. I'm just going to do the job. What's on my left is the stud that goes into the engine. Right, this is the rear mount, and it has the gold spot. So that's a 13. It goes in there, and then there's a bracket, the heater hose bracket that goes on it. So this is the rear bracket that holds the intake manifold, the upper. Okay, so a little description of what goes on here. So you have these 10s. There's 1, 2 at an angle. Then you have these, I think they're 8s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then you have the rear bracket, which is on the side. Then you lift up the heater hoses, and you have a 13, and you take the stud out. That releases the bottom. Then you have one back here, a 10, and then you have another one back here, a 10. And then this thing should come forward, yep, just like this, and lift up and out, just like that. The thing is, I'll take a little look here. Everything's on the side, like that. That's what's underneath. But I'm gonna do that tomorrow because it's just about getting dark here. So I'm just gonna leave it just like that. This is the front stud I was talking about. I also undid these 2 brackets for this crossover. Wanted to get it out of the way. So that's basically, I guess I didn't have to do this one over here. See it? This one's going to be for the bottom. So I'll deal with that in the bottom. And so that's pretty much it. This one over here is a little bit difficult. You got to get in there, and then this little heater hose a little bit difficult. There's a hose over here that pushes back, which I mark with a gold, but it's all online. So maybe I'll give you a little bit more discussion about it, but that's basically it.